these were small little townships, small villages. And so the beauty about that is most people know everybody. So that's a natural laboratory where we could actually study social networks. We assessed for PTSD and depression, but then for every person we interviewed, we asked them questions. I said, think about your life at the moment, and is there a person or an organisation that you feel close to? Or are you providing help to somebody? And then we asked each person to name up to 10 people, which is a massive thing. And then we got all these details about every single person, their name, their address, their relationship to them, because we wanted all that. Because after doing that, we then did a social mapping exercise where we could connect every single person to every other person within that social network. Now, what we ended up with, we had over 1,000 participants and lots of ties between individuals. So there were nearly 2,500 people with emotionally close ties. And what that allowed us to do is map the entire 1,000 people. And it looked something like this, where you could see that on the top left, there are people who are tightly knitted, tightly attached to each other. And then there are people who are attached to a few people, and then you can see down the bottom there's a whole bunch of people who are totally alone. Now, what we then did was we looked at their PTSD scores, and we looked at their depression scores, and we looked at how well does how I'm interacting with people, how is that impacted by my PTSD or depression? And to cut a long story short, this is what we found. If you were depressed, you were more likely to be having a close social contact with another depressed person. Now, there's a couple of ways to explain that. There is a theory that depression is contagious. That is, because I'm depressed, I'm sad, I'm down, I'm melancholic, I'm actually going to make other people sad around me. Or it may be that I choose to be with sad people because they're similar to me. In terms of PTSD, what we found, that was interesting, is that the more PTSD I had, the more likely I had a fractured social network. So I could be connected with people, but the people I'm connected with aren't connected with each other. So I'm actually not part of a coherent social network. And the more I have PTSD, the less likely I am part of that social network. And this was an interesting sort of finding for us, because it really highlights that we need to be taking this sort of methodology more seriously. And it's a very difficult one to try to understand what are the causal relationships between having particular social relationships, good and bad, and how does that impact and help my mental health? And the field itself, not just in disaster, but a lot of this is done in depression, it is not well developed. Now, to answer some of these questions, we had to then do more longitudinal work, which we have tried, and to be honest, the models haven't held because too much missing data. It's just very, very difficult to do. But I think it's one of the challenges for disaster research moving forward. We do need to be taking this more socio-centric approach if we're really going to advance what we understand as community approaches to dealing with PTSD and mental health, more generally.